Welcome, I'm Kinetic Symphony. This is Dave. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the supernatural. Case file number 1955, written by HelpfulName. In the storm's light stood terrors in the night. 14 years ago, we were house and dog sitting for the summer for a friend who'd gone out of the country and didn't want to leave their place empty or put the dog in a kennel for 2 months. One night there was a truly phenomenal thunderstorm. The lightning was so constant that instead of being dark, everything was lit with this eerie, flickering blue-white light with the occasional purple flashes. The air was rumbling, the thunder was so active. The warm rain fell so thickly that you couldn't see the other side of the street, which was now a little river, probably an inch or so deep. It was like being on an alien planet. We were mesmerized, and because it was so warm, we went and sat outside on the covered front porch. Suddenly, my boyfriend said, "Is someone out there?" and nudged me to look down the street. It looked like the shadowy, distinct figure of a person weaving around in the middle of the street. As we watched, the person came closer and closer down the street, but we quickly realized there was actually no one there. It was a roughly person-shaped hole in the rain. My boyfriend was gripping my arm tightly by now, and we were frozen, watching. You could see the falling rain stopping, as if hitting a body. There were sprays flying off in directions rain was not falling in, and stompy splashes in the rain flowing down the street. Just like you'd see if someone was stamping their foot on a puddle. But there was no one there. It was like watching the invisible man. It was now right in front of our house. There was a clear rhythm to the movements, and it became clear this figure seemed to be dancing in the rain. We were both terrified and fascinated, but there was this weird feeling of danger too. We were barely breathing, and my boyfriend whispered right in my ear, "It can't notice us." There was a super bright lightning flash just then, one so bright it left us blinking and seeing purple for a moment. The figure stopped dancing and was standing before the house, and we both got this horrible feeling it was looking at us. Then the movement started up again, slower now. It made its way up the short driveway and onto the lawn in front of the porch where it slowed to a stop. My boyfriend's grip on my arm was painful at this point, and I could feel him winding up to make a lunge for the door to try and get us inside. Suddenly, the dog started barking aggressively and loudly in a way we'd never heard it bark before. And then it started throwing itself at the door. The thing on the lawn jumped backwards and then ran away across the grass, down the drive and then down the street, as if it was running away. We jumped up and ran into the house, locking the door behind us and calming the dog down, who was beside himself and insisted on smelling us all over for some time before his hackles would go down. To this day, I have no idea what we could have seen. We've talked about it many times. Every rainstorm now, we spend a bit of time looking out the windows. We live about 15 minutes drive from there now. We've never seen anything similar since. Case notes for file 1955. In the storm's light stood terrors in the night. Okay, this one is so bizarre. You're not seeing a ghost wouldn't cause the water to displace. You're not seeing some weird creature, it was humanoid shaped, it was clearly a human being. Are we dealing with actual stealth technology that can bend light around it and replicate what's in the back in the front? That is theoretically possible. And at night in the dark, you'd really only make it out by the rain, the splashes going in different directions and so on, to shape out the figure, as you describe. Okay, what the hell's going on? If we have that kind of technology, it would be isolated to military uses, right? It wouldn't just be some random Joe on the street that's obviously pretty crazy or maybe high or something. It strikes me not as a glitch but technology, and whoever was doing it was aware that they shouldn't be seen, besides the rain. But then why use it in the rain too? It's almost like someone stole it off a military base and just was having fun. Or if it wasn't technology, someone just glitched out, but they were aware that they weren't visible, and so they were having fun with it while it lasted. Case file number 1956, written by iBurnGaze808. Banging Lore and Dogs Encore, a Saturday night to explore. Just a Saturday night, I was watching TV home alone with my 2 dogs, when I heard a banging sound coming from the basement. Legit sounded like somebody was just banging something on the appliances we had down there. Now, there was no access into the basement from down there, only through the upstairs rooms that I was in, and knew nobody could have come in and got past me. So with this knowledge, I was not as scared as you may think, more curious as to what the heck the noise was. One of the 2 dogs, who is a meathead and wants to fight everybody, also heard the noise, and was now boiling down into the basement to investigate. I get down and see that it is my other dog, banging his head into our dryer and chest freezer, which are next to each other. My meathead dog just stood there watching confused, so I approach my other dog and calm him down, and we all go back upstairs. Now this freaked the heck out of me and upset me, as it seemed such very strange behavior for my dog to do. Fast forward only 30 minutes or so, the banging starts again. I instantly look over to my dog, but he is laying down, but now also aware of the noise downstairs. We run down into the basement and there is Meathead, now banging his head in between the appliances. Again, I now calm the Meathead down and we all go back upstairs. Nothing has ever happened again since that night, 3 years now. So that ruled out brain tumors, which is what I read online about why maybe dogs bang their heads. But 2 dogs suddenly on the same night, 3 years ago, never happened again. Case notes found 1956. Banging lore and dogs Encore. A Saturday night to explore. Yet this one does strike me as familiar. I think there have been at least 1 or 2 cases where dogs are seemingly possessed at random. There's no catalyst to it, no prior warning. They just behave very weirdly, and then it never happens again. Tumor? Don't think so. As you describe, it doesn't make sense. They would do it again if it was a tumor. It would just get worse. Over the years, it must be some kind of possession. But then, possession of a weird, mentally deficient dog? The only other thing way out there is the idea that maybe it was a quantum immortality event gone awry. So the soul was being transferred into you, your copy, but it was latching onto the dogs first. I don't know the process exactly. How do you hone in on that specific soul when the transfer happens? But maybe something was wrong with the code and it targeted your dogs first. Could be that, but that's way out there. But it is kind of interesting to think about. Case file number 1957, written by TillSoil. From science to chi, heat felt by me. I'm a skeptic, atheist, former science researcher, and this remains the most woo-woo thing I have ever personally experienced, and insisted on testing. In Seattle, I met the colleague of a friend. She told me he was a Qigong practitioner. Qi equals a life force said to circulate through all living beings. He was said to manipulate this force. Of course, I asked for a demo. Other friends were there too. Her colleagues and I stood 6 to 8 feet apart, with eyes closed, so I could not see him point. I stretched my hands out to both sides. He said, "Say whether I'm pointing at your left hand or your right hand." Soon I felt one hand get unmistakably hotter. It was a sensation like heat, like a warm glow. No air movement. I said, "Right hand." It was at my direction, with my eyes still closed. He repeated the test several times, switching randomly between right and left hands. I could always tell which hand he was directing chi at, without a single guess wrong. Next test, still standing 6 to 8 feet apart, but with me facing him this time so I could see. He pointed his hand towards me, aimed at my neck. Nothing but open air between us in my friend's living room. I started to feel a sense of heat in, not on, my neck. A feeling of fullness, thickness, congestion that made me feel like swallowing, as if a knot of food or something was in my throat. The friends watching grew audibly concerned at this point, which I found interesting by itself, and prevailed on us to stop the test. I went for a walk around the lake later with the guy. He was slender, medium height, Asian or Asian American, late 20s, early 30s, smoked the occasional cigarette. I was astonished to learn that he was in his 50s, but this Qigong test remains the single most inexplicable thing I've ever experienced firsthand. Case notes found 1957. From science to Qi, heat felt by me. I've never dealt with anything related to chi and energy like that, the Asian style of things, of thinking about our own spirit as like a spiritual energy source. And it would tie along with how I perceive as spirits or echoes the fragments of our soul left behind, fading out over time because the energy depletes and there's nothing to recharge it. But I certainly would like to be in that same position, where someone is a chi practitioner, and they can literally make one side of your body feel warmer, without touching you, obviously. If you rub your hands really quick and then touch someone, yeah, obviously it would feel hotter, but assuming they never touched you, or already came that close, or rub their hands together or anything, could you fake it somehow? Have some heated blanket or something heated pad over your hands? But with witnesses around you, obviously they would have seen him doing that. So if it was just him, and just like that, and you're just feeling warm, pretty impressive. And I don't know what would cause that outside of some energy source that is present within all of us. And maybe there is a way to harness it. Really like that idea, for sure. Also speaks to the DBZ inside of me. The idea of using your chi to control, ki blasts or even flying with it. That'd be so cool. Just to know, if you're a girl, every single guy you've ever been with, you've ever spoken to, has thought of going Super Saiyan at some point, or performing a Kamehameha. Probably don't even know what that is, but every single guy has at some point. Ask your boyfriend about it, he'll know. Now time for the joke of the day. My landlord said he wants to talk to me about my high heating bill. I told him my door is always open. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony, signing off.